First, good evening. Today is the 6th day of November 2025. I'm just coming from DSS now where I went to see Nnamdi Kanu to discuss, to know how far he has prepared in respect of the things he needed to file for his case tomorrow. But surprisingly, he told me that after the proceedings of that yesterday, he pleaded with the DSS that they should allow him to do the necessary affidavits and the filing he needed to do in the court. They said no, that they should get to the office first, then he can now come back. On reaching to the office, he asked them that let him go back. They said no, that he should leave it today. That since morning till the time I came, I went there around 3. They refused to take him where he's supposed to do the affidavits and the necessary papers. So thereby frustrating him for his case tomorrow. And you know that he's representing himself. And there are some affidavits he needs to do by himself. So you cannot see how DSS are frustrating Nnamdi Kanu tomorrow now.
All right, let's get into this latest development that's rocking the Nigerian legal and political landscapes. Recently, the headline made waves. DSS blocks Nnamdi Kanu from preparing for court. Maxwell Opara cries out. Now, you're probably asking, what exactly is going on here? Why is this such a big deal? So here's the breakdown. Nnamdi Kanu, the leader of the Indigenous People of Biafra, IPOB, is facing some serious charges, and his legal team has been trying to prepare his defense for his court case. The problem? The Department of State Services, DSS, the agency that's currently holding Kanu, is reportedly blocking him from properly preparing for court. Now, let's pause for a moment. Why does this matter? Well, when someone is facing such serious charges, they have a right to a fair trial. Part of that fair trial involves the defendant having access to their legal team and being able to prepare their case. But according to reports, that's not happening here. Kanu's lawyers, including Maxwell Opara, have made public statements crying out about how the DSS has been preventing them from seeing their client and getting the necessary information to build his defense. That's a serious concern. If a defendant can't prepare properly, how can they have a fair trial? Let me tell you, it's not just about one person or one case. This touches on the core principles of our justice system. If a person in Kanu's situation, who's already been held in custody, can't access their lawyers to properly defend themselves, then we've got bigger issues at play. This has the potential to affect how people view the fairness and integrity of the legal system. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Maxwell Opara, one of Kanu's lawyers, has been vocal about this. He's crying out, saying that this is a violation of Kanu's rights, and it goes against everything a court should stand for. The legal team argues that the DSS is deliberately making it hard for them to consult with Kanu and do their job properly. And this, my friends, could mean that Kanu's defense might not even be heard in court, which could have huge consequences for his case. Now, what does the court say about all of this? Well, the Federal High Court has been trying to push this case forward. In fact, the court recently gave Kanu a final chance to prepare his defense and enter his plea. They've set a deadline, warning that if Kanu doesn't proceed with his defense, he could lose his chance to argue his case entirely. You'd think that the court would enforce its orders, right? But that's where the tension lies. The court has made clear instructions, but the DSS, well, they've been accused of ignoring those orders and continuing to block Kanu's lawyers from seeing him. And it doesn't stop there. Kanu himself has been very vocal about the charges against him. He argues that the laws he's been charged under were repealed, and he claims that he was misled into pleading guilty to charges that don't even exist. There's a lot of legal back and forth here, but what it all boils down to is this. The accusations against him are still unclear, and he's being denied proper access to build his case. That's something that affects not just him, but everyone watching. It raises questions about the fairness of the system and whether the rights of accused individuals are really being upheld. So, what happens next? It's hard to say for sure. If the DSS continues to block access, Kanu's legal team might push for contempt charges or demand that the court step in. But what's certain is that this case is far from over. The way this unfolds will tell us a lot about how the Nigerian justice system handles high-profile cases, especially those involving people like Nnamdi Kanu, who have such a large following and represent such a contentious issue, Biafra. There's a bigger conversation here too that we can't ignore. This is about the balance between national security and individual rights. The DSS is tasked with maintaining national security, but where do we draw the line? How much power can they have over a person's ability to defend themselves? And if Kanu, or anyone for that matter, is being denied the right to prepare for their trial, what does that say about the state of our justice system? This situation is so much bigger than just one person. It speaks to the overall trust people have in the system. And that trust, my friends, is something we all need to pay attention to. But here's the thing. It's not just about Kanu or his legal team. It's about all of us. If we start allowing this kind of treatment, where does it end? What about the next person who finds themselves in the same situation? What if the government starts to chip away at everyone's right to a fair trial? These are questions that we all need to think about as this case continues to unfold. So, let me ask you, what do you think is going to happen next? Do you think Kanu is being treated unfairly? Should the DSS be allowed to block access, or does that violate his rights to a fair trial? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I'm really interested to hear what you all think about this, and if you're finding this conversation valuable, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to stay updated on all the latest developments. This story is going to keep evolving, and I'll be right here bringing you all the updates as they happen. Let's continue from where we left off and build this out further for a 50-minute read with engaging storytelling. Here's how we can continue. For those of you who aren't familiar with the DSS, it stands for the Department of State Services, and it's Nigeria's primary security and intelligence agency. These guys have a lot of power, and they're tasked with things like protecting national security, investigating threats, and ensuring peace. But with that power comes scrutiny. And in this case, it's the DSS's actions that are being questioned. So let's break it down. What exactly does the DSS have to gain by preventing Nnamdi Kanu from preparing for court? That's the big question everyone's been asking. Some say the DSS is trying to control the narrative to limit the kind of defense Kanu can put up. Others argue that it's just a matter of security, ensuring that no one takes advantage of the situation or uses the courtroom for ulterior motives. It's really a mix of political, legal, and security concerns all coming to a head. Now, we can't ignore the fact that Kanu is not just any detainee. He's a political figure, a leader of a group that's pushing for a separate state of Biafra. His actions, speeches, and ideologies have drawn both support and criticism in equal measure. There are people who look at him as a freedom fighter, standing up for the rights of the IPOB people and fighting against oppression. Then, there are those who view him as a threat to national unity, someone whose actions and words could incite violence and disrupt the peace. So with someone like Kanu, it's not just about the legal case. It's about national politics, ethnic tensions, and even international diplomacy. This is why his detention and treatment are such a big deal. If the DSS is allowed to continue blocking his access to his lawyers and the court, it sends a very dangerous message about the state of our legal system and the rights of individuals in custody. It's not just a case of one person's rights being violated. It's about the rights of everyone in the country and how much control the government is allowed to have over an individual's ability to defend themselves. But here's where things get tricky. The DSS argues that Kanu is a security risk and that allowing him unrestricted access to his legal team or the outside world could compromise the investigation or lead to further unrest. And while I understand that there's always a balance to be struck between security and personal rights, we have to ask, where do we draw the line? If Kanu is being treated unfairly now, what's to stop similar actions from happening to others in the future? And let's not forget the power of public perception in this whole situation. The people who support Kanu are watching closely. They're not just concerned about the legal case. They're concerned about what this case represents. For many, Kanu symbolizes a voice for the oppressed, someone who's been speaking out against the system they believe is corrupt and unjust. The way Kanu is treated in court the way the DSS handles his case could have long-lasting effects on the political landscape. It could either fuel the fire of those who support him, or it could quiet them down, at least temporarily. But what happens when that fire burns out of control? What happens when a group of people feels like their voices are being silenced, that the justice system is not on their side? We've seen what can happen in history when people feel oppressed or disenfranchised. It's a dangerous game to play, and the consequences of it could go far beyond just this court case. As for Kanu himself, what's going on inside his head right now? The man's been in detention for a long time. He's been separated from his family, his legal team, and his supporters. There's no telling what kind of toll this situation has taken on him mentally and emotionally. For someone who's as vocal and passionate as Kanu, being in solitary confinement and facing a justice system that's blocking your every move must be incredibly frustrating. Imagine being in his shoes, knowing that your future, your freedom is on the line, and yet you're being denied the basic right to prepare for your defense. That's a real human element to this case that we can't ignore. Behind the headlines and the politics, there's a person who has been caught in the middle of something much bigger than just a legal case. And this goes for the other detainees who may be facing similar situations. If we let this slide, if we let the system get away with blocking access to legal counsel or impeding a fair trial, what's next? Who else is next? And that leads us back to the question we asked earlier. What happens if the justice system doesn't work as it should? If the rule of law is broken, even in a case as high profile as this one, what's left for the everyday person? This is about more than just one case. It's about the future of Nigeria's legal system, and whether or not we have a system that treats everyone equally, no matter who they are or what they believe. But here's something to think about. If Kanu's supporters truly believe that he's been wronged, that he's being held unjustly, this case could ignite something much bigger. This isn't just a courtroom drama. This is about national unity, about the future of Nigeria as a whole. People who are upset with the way the system works could look at this case and feel like they have no other choice but to rise up. And that, my friends, is something we need to pay attention to. Now, we don't know how this case is going to unfold. We don't know if the DSS will relent and allow Kanu's legal team access to him, or if the court will step in and force the issue. What we do know is that this is a critical moment for the Nigerian justice system. It's a test of how fair and just the system really is, and whether or not it can stand up to the scrutiny that's coming its way. But before I end, think about this. What happens when the system meant to protect us starts looking more like it's oppressing us? Is this the future we want to see? Or is there still hope for a fair trial for everyone? The answer to that question could change everything. Thanks for sticking with me today, and I'll see you in the next video.